Well, good evening and welcome to another exciting episode of Love Not Fear. I'm Jack Cox, author of Love Not Fear.
And I'm Andrew Smith, the author of Keep Moving On from 2006. That's just a bit of a joke, really. I've got my own book coming out, and Jack's kindly said that he's going to help promote that when it's ready.
Well, I'm very pleased that Andrew's here. He's going to stand in as co-host tonight because Annie can't make it. Annie sends her apologies. She's had emergency dental treatment, so she's not really fit to go on screen. But Andrew's very kindly agreed to stand in as co-host. So if anything goes wrong, blame him.
It's his fault, yeah. Got nothing to do with me, missus.
Right, well, tonight we're going to be talking about how we can use gratitude to heal the world. Not gratitude, generosity. It's his fault.
It's his fault. It weren't him. I threw him off. Honest, it was me.
Tonight we're going to be talking about how generosity can be used to heal the world. I've made a few notes, and so has Andrew. So I'm going to be reading off my screen. So apologies if I'm squinting at the screen and obviously reading. I'm afraid I'm a little bit short-sighted. Okay, I'm considerably short-sighted. How generosity can heal our world. Healthier bodies, greater empathy, lower rates of depression, longer lifespans. What if I told you you could have all that just by doing one thing? Not only will it improve your life, it will help your friends and their friends thrive too. So what is this magic pill? It's generosity. The simple act of giving. Study after study has shown that generous people are physically healthier, have greater empathy, suffer from lower rates of depression, and even live longer than those who do not. Jump in at any time, Andrew.
Well, yeah, I was thinking, it's Christmas and everybody's thinking about, we went Christmas shopping yesterday, and everybody's thinking about what can they give. And as you probably are already aware, if you watched me talking to Jack before, and Jack should know for sure, is that I was brought up in the Methodist Church. And so Christmas was very much about Jesus and about the story in Bethlehem and so on. And I was just thinking about it the other day. We all think about what gift we can give. But when it came to, according to the scriptures, what gift God could give, he gave himself. Jesus is the personification, according to the Christian scriptures, of God himself, begotten, not made. That's what the claim is, that Jesus is God himself in human form. So when God gave a gift, he gave himself. And then obviously you go to Easter and he gave himself on the cross as well. That's what the Christians teach. So if you're going to give anything this Christmas, give it with yourself. Don't just hand over a present and that's the end of it, but give yourself with it, be there, be present in that moment. That's what I was thinking of. I don't know if that's all relevant, Jack.
Yeah, it's a shame that people compress all their giving into birthdays and Christmases, isn't it, really? And don't spread it out as a way of life.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how much or how little you have, whether you're rich or poor. The studies show that giving to others improves our short-term happiness and our long-term well-being. The benefits of a generous lifestyle are demonstrable and verifiable. Yeah. And they're within everyone's grasp.
Yeah, it's probably the most easy thing to do, isn't it? To give your time, or maybe put some money in the Salvation Army collecting tin as you go past the band playing the beautiful carols. It's so simple to do, and it makes you feel good all over, I promise you. It's just a wonderful feeling.
Absolutely, yeah, yeah. One of the most common fallacies around is that you need to have something in order to give. But is that really true? Do we need to have things before we can give? What if things were not the most valuable part of giving? There's a story told about Gandhi. Gandhi was visiting an ashram. It seems he lost a pencil. It was just a very small, stubby little pencil. Gandhi was looking everywhere, but he couldn't find the pencil. Other people helped him look, but nobody could find the pencil. Then somebody said, "You're the father of a nation. What is a pencil to you? Why don't you take another pencil and get a bigger one?" But Gandhi said no, he wanted that pencil because it had been given to him by a child with a lot of love. It wasn't just the pencil he was after, it was the love that was embedded in that pencil.
Mm.
And Gandhi was sensitive to that. In monetary terms, the pencil held no value whatsoever. But to Gandhi, it was the most valuable thing in the world.
I think we were talking about this on Friday a little bit, weren't we? And we were saying that my friend went to Africa and she went as a guest inside this little mud hut. And they had a family of 8 and they had very little food in this little hovel of a home. And they insisted that she ate this little piece of cake that was all that they had. And she said, I couldn't possibly eat that because it's all you've got. And they said, but we insist, no, it's what we have, and you are our guest, you are our honored guest, and we want to bless you. And if you don't eat it, we will be very, very upset. So she had to eat it then. But you don't have to have much. Again, in the Bible, the story that the widow's mite. There's this guy beating his chest and going, I'm so glad that I'm not like that sinner down there who wouldn't even dare walk up the temple steps. And she put this little mite, which was all that she had, into the collection plate. And so it's not the amount, it's how much of yourself you're giving when you give.
Yeah. One of the people present at the thing with Gandhi that I just mentioned with the pencil was a school cleaner. Kids would throw away the worn down pencil stubs. So she started to collect them and give them to the kids who couldn't even afford that. And she also collected old rubbers and pencil sharpeners for the kids who had nothing. She could have afforded to buy those things from a shop and give it to the children, but instead she waded through the rubbish so that her love was embedded in it. She understood that it's not the stuff, it's the love around the stuff. And there's an inner transformation that occurs when we give. It's what happens on the inside that matters more than the stuff on the outside. So what is this transformation? Well, there are 2 elements to it. First is a physical element. Scientists tell us that giving gives us greater immunity. Our biochemistry actually changes and we live longer. Harvard professor Matthew Norton did a study on giving money. He says when you give money to other people, you actually feel a lot happier than when you spend it on things that you think you need for yourself. Even skeptics who did the study went into the experiment saying, no, I'm not like that. I actually don't like to give money to other people. Well, they ended up being a lot happier too. Robert Emmons, PhD, is probably the world's leading expert on gratitude. Remember, we talked about gratitude a couple of weeks ago. He's a professor of psychology at the University of California and the founding editor-in-chief of the Journal of Positive Psychology. And I'll put a link to his books in the description on the YouTube version of this. When Davis did his research on gratitude, he found that when you give, you create relationships, and embedded in this cocoon of relationships, you feel a lot of gratitude. And that gratitude ends up having a lot of biochemical responses in your body. So giving is good for you, for your body. It turns out that we're biologically wired to give. What happens when we give back is our bodies produce oxytocin, the trust and love hormone, as well as dopamine. Right after a woman has delivered a baby, she gets a whole load of oxytocin, and that's part of the bonding process that occurs. The thing about generosity is you do something, whether it's time, talent, or time, talent, or treasure. That's a term I picked up. Your body gets a little shot of oxytocin and you feel good inside. Our bodies want and need us to produce more oxytocin. This goes all the way back to the survival of our early ancestors, because part of that oxytocin, part of what oxytocin does, is it will suppress the stress hormone cortisol. So when we're overly stressed, we're typically less likely to be generous. We also have less feeling of bonding. The more we give, the more oxytocin, the more the body triggers us to do more and produce more oxytocin, and so the cycle continues. The recipient of your generosity also gets a little shot of oxytocin, so they feel good. Apparently, even somebody who witnesses the act of generosity gets a little shot of oxytocin too. But there's also a more subtle reason to give, which is that giving is good for our minds. When we give, our minds shift to a different orientation. It's not about me, me, me anymore. Now it's about the other person. And when it's about the other, there's a stillness of the mind that comes in. And with that stillness, we step into our natural way of being, which is to be interconnected and interrelated. And in that state, we're no longer consuming more and more things. We're more content with what we have. We're more grateful. We're not just consumers, we become contributors. We don't open every door and say, what can I get here? But rather, what can I give here? Generosity starts to change our way of being at a very fundamental level. And everyone can give in their own unique ways. As we said before, you don't have to be rich. If I have 2 pencils and I give you 1 pencil, I have 1 less pencil. But I have a lot more happiness. I feel better about myself. There's this inner transformation that occurs. If I smile at you, I have more smiles to give. Research actually shows that if I give more love, the more love I have to give. The inner gifts are abundant, and because they're abundant, everyone can give in amazing ways. I love the story of an Indian man, Raghu Mokwena. Raghu lost his legs to polio when he was very, very young, and he lived in a poor community. And having no legs in a poor community in India meant he was pretty much housebound. One day he decided to do an experiment. He thought he'd grow tulsi plants, and then he'd call other people in the community and say, look, I have a tulsi plant that I've been growing for you. It's a gift. Tulsi, Ocimum tenuiflorum, is a type of basil considered sacred in India. He was happy because he got to give, and he got to connect with his community. And others in the community were happy because, well, Plato's got a tulsi plant. According to the traditionally dominant paradigm that we're all taught from birth, this man had nothing to give, but he found a very unique way of giving.
Beautiful story.
It is, isn't it? It's a gorgeous story. What did Martin Luther King say? He said, everyone can be great because everyone can give. Sorry, everyone can be great because everyone can serve. He didn't say millionaires can be great because millionaires can serve. He didn't say gifted smart people can be great because gifted smart people can serve. He said everybody can serve. And Gandhi didn't say, go forth and change the world. Gandhi said, be the change you wish to see in the world. And when we are being that change, there's an inner transformation that occurs, as I said before. And that inner transformation itself is a gift. And when you lead with that inner transformation, it changes the trajectory of the effect that we have on the world. Now, remember Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It starts off with physical needs, basic physical needs. And according to Maslow, only when you have those basic physical needs covered, can you move on to safety, belonging, self-esteem, and all that. And all the way at the end, you have inner transformation. He called it self-actualization. So according to Maslow, if you don't have the bare basic essentials of life, you really shouldn't even be thinking about inner transformation at all. But is that really true? No, I don't think it's true. And judging by what we've just seen, no, it certainly isn't. Yet this is the way of the old paradigm. And trillions of pounds, euros, and dollars of public money are allocated according to Maslow's model every year. I like to think of generosity as a vitamin. You know, I nicked this. This isn't original. I can't remember who I nicked it off though. I like to think of generosity as a vitamin. We take our vitamin C and our vitamin D and our vitamin A, but how many of us take our vitamin G, generosity? We all need generosity, and often those who have the least are actually very rich in vitamin G. So what would happen if everybody actually started practicing generosity? Well, tell you, before we get into that, Andrew's got some stuff he's researched about the effects of generosity. So, oh, hang on, we've got some people. Hello, Catherine. And Kenneth, hi. Sorry, I couldn't see the screen while I was reading my notes. Andrew, let you in. Yeah, it's great you could make it. So what, you had some research on the benefits of the physical.
I'm going to do the same now. I'm going to be reading from my notes. So right. I'm not looking at the screen, I'm looking at the notes. So yeah, I'm a guest presenter. Annie's not too good tonight. She'll be fine, but I've been asked to step in. So here goes. It's my first involvement here. I put it into Google, how can generosity heal the world? And this is what Google said: a growing number of studies suggest that selfless giving lowers stress and eases depression symptoms, regardless of a person's culture or income. In fact, one study found positive emotional effects linked to generosity in 120 countries across the globe, including some of the world's poorest places, which is really reflecting back what Jack's been saying. But then I found this other article. It's called 10 Acts of Generosity, Ideas to Make You a More Generous Human. And it's written by someone called Amber Murphy. And I found it as a self-improvement article on the Declutter Your Mind app. And this is what Amber says. Sometimes, truth be told, the world can be a little unkind and even unfair. Walk around in any major city in the United States, for example, and you'll see hundreds of homeless people living on the street. I saw them in downtown LA when we were there. Every day they're here, living desperate and degrading lives while hanging on to their meager possessions. And all the while, people who have money and food and a home to live in pass them by without giving them even a glance, never mind money. That's not in the notes, that's me, I added that. There's no consideration for any acts of generosity. It's not just the homeless either who are in desperate straits. Millions of families across the country and the world are barely scraping by. Restaurant workers, Uber drivers, gas station attendants, cashiers, and so many more, scores of whom have families to feed, are living paycheck to paycheck. Immigrants who barely speak English, senior citizens living alone, men and women suffering from deadly or life-threatening diseases. If you think about it long enough, it's a situation that might just make you want to cry. But then, as if out of the blue, someone comes along with acts of generosity and kindness that restore your faith in humanity. So what are these acts of generosity? And number one is helping the elderly or vulnerable. Whether there's a crisis like COVID-19 or not, there are many people who need help daily. Older folks who can't leave their home and have no family often need someone to help them with things like grocery shopping, keeping their home tidy, or getting to a doctor's appointment. Then there are those who are suffering from illnesses that, for whatever reason, keep them confined to their home, and they need some of the same things. Giving these people your time and energy by taking them to an appointment, helping them with their groceries, or even just sitting with them every few days and giving them a bit of company is an act of generosity that they will cherish and enjoy. It also might be a literal lifesaver, as many people who are stuck inside their homes can become suicidal from the isolation and depression. A beautiful example of this is happening in New York City right now during the coronavirus pandemic, called Invisible Hands Deliver. It's a group of nearly 3,000 volunteers across the Big Apple who are braving the virus and the cold to deliver medicine, food, and even flowers to those, for whatever reason, simply can't leave their home. As acts of kindness go, this one is right up there at the top. So number one, helping the elderly or vulnerable. Number two, donating a cash prize to a school. This act of generosity will blow you away. It involves a third grade teacher named Nicole Bollerman from Dorchester in Massachusetts, and the school she worked for in the same town. It seems that Ms. Bollerman entered a contest called Wish for Others that was sponsored by a national bank with a grand prize of $150,000. Would you know it? Hers was the winning entry, and as promised, the bank gave her a check for $150,000, an amount that we think you'll agree would change just about anyone's life. Miss Bollerman had other plans for the money, however, and donated the entire amount back to her school. Amazed and impressed with her act of generosity, the Mayor of Dorchester honoured this incredibly generous teacher at their City Hall, and we can only assume her students now think she's genuinely remarkable. So number one was helping the elderly. Number two, donating cash prize to school. So when you win something, you don't keep it for yourself, you pass it on. Number three, pay for someone else's groceries. While we don't have a specific story to relate here, all you need to do is Google pay for strangers' groceries, and thousands of examples of acts of generosity will fill your computer screen. And as we talked about earlier, many families in the United States and elsewhere struggle to pay their bills, and many times that includes the grocery bill. Luckily, there are many people out there who know this, and even better, do something about it by paying for a complete stranger's groceries. Not just generous, this is possibly the kindest thing we can think of that one person can do for another, putting food on their table to feed their family. Help people in need build confidence in their fellow human beings by surprising them with a simple act as this. It doesn't need to be an expensive grocery run. It can even be someone's morning routine coffee. Just buy somebody a coffee. Number four, volunteer at a soup kitchen. This generous act has been around for a long time, which is kind of sad when you stop to think about it. Yes, volunteering to help feed the homeless by working and serving with them in a soup kitchen is one of the best acts of generosity, no doubt. What's sad is that there are so many people who are homeless and need soup kitchens to get at least one good meal a day. As acts of generosity go, this is one we hope will someday no longer be needed. Number five.
Nobody should be homeless and hungry, should they, Andrew?
No, it's
certainly not in the wealthy nations.
No, not in the wealthy nations. It shouldn't even be a thing. But whatever it is, we don't turn a blind eye to it. If you can, if somebody asks you for the price of a cup of tea, I'll do one better. I'll make you a cup of tea, or I'll take you for a cup of tea, because usually, if you're not careful, that money goes on something other than a cup of tea.
Yes, right. Yeah.
So number five I've got here was paying the toll fee for other drivers. I had that happen to me. We were in Dublin, and I threw my money at the where you go down the tunnel underneath the river there in Dublin, and it fell on the floor, and somebody just came from behind me and probably just fed up with waiting for me to sort myself out, and just threw some money in. So in many states across the United States, there are toll roads with tolls every few miles, especially in the Northeast. Little reminders that some states maybe aren't as generous as others. We're looking at you, New Jersey. There have been many instances over the years where drivers were the ones who had the generosity. That's when, out of the goodness of their hearts, they not only paid for their own toll, but also for the toll expense of several other cars behind them. We think you'll agree that if acts of generosity like that happened more often, maybe there wouldn't be so much road rage on the highways. And then
I think I think the welfare state has a lot to answer for. Certainly in this country, people have got the attitude in their heads now that I don't have to help other people, the government will do it. It's not my job to help other people, it's the government's job. And nothing could be further from the truth. It's down to every single one of us, peer to peer, to help one another.
Well, I was sick for 7 months. We were talking about it after my PE, and I got £95, I think it was, a week from the state. So how anyone's supposed to live on £95, I don't know. Yeah. So, as you say, even though there is some provision from the government, it's not enough. And if you compare the UK's own social services with other European countries, we're at the bottom of the league. We don't look after our people who've fallen on hard times, or they're ill or whatever, as good as other European countries do. So unfortunately, it does come down to, if you see someone. I was in a car park And this guy said, have you got change for a £5 note? I said, are you looking for change for the car parking machine? He said, yes. I said, well, you only need £1. Here's £1. I've got £1. You can have £1. Really? I said, yeah. You know, if I'm in a place where I can meet somebody's needs, I'm not always, if he'd wanted £100, it'd have been a different matter. But he only wanted £1. And I said, but just have it, just take it. And he was absolutely gobsmacked. But by doing that, if you are in a position to help someone, do it. And feel good, because I felt great afterwards. It's only £1, but it made me feel wonderful inside.
Yeah, I mean, I've often been, well, not often, but occasionally been in a supermarket checkout, and the person in front hasn't had quite enough money to, and they're just about to take all the, walk away.
Yeah.
And I said, no, hang on. No, I'll pay the difference. And it's just, to me, that's just normal, But I'm afraid in the society we live in today, to most people, that's not normal.
Yeah. So number 6 is donating your things to charity. This is something I did recently. There's a little shop in the village here where I live, Dr. Bernardo's charity, and I want to declutter. I want to have less of the things of this world. I've been a hoarder most of my life, and when we moved house, I got rid of an awful lot of stuff, but I want it all to go to a good home. I don't just want to throw it in the skip. I want it to be useful to someone else. So I've given quite a lot of things to friends and family, but there were certain things that I thought maybe Dr. Bernardo's can get some money out of this. And so I've got some stuff on the landing outside the office here, the office bedroom, and that's got to go to Dr. Bernardo's. And I've got a card I can gift aid it, so that I can actually give them that, they sell it, and then they can claim some of my tax back to the value of what they've sold of my goods, which is really good. So it says here as number 6, donating your things to charity. Our final, it says final, but this 7, 8, 9 and 10, so I don't know why they've done that. Example is one that everyone should follow because it's easy. It makes you feel good, and it can make a lot of other people feel even better. It's giving your gently used things to a charity like Goodwill, so that others can get to them for free or at an extremely reduced price. Like we said, donating your items is easy, it costs nothing, and it will help many others who are less fortunate. To engage in this act of generosity, all you need to do is give to any of the places on the list below: Goodwill, your local library, Dress for Success, Habitat for Humanity, Baby to Baby, local food banks, eBay, Giving Works, and the Salvation Army. Other ideas for acts of generosity. If you need more examples, there's the 7, 8, 9 and 10. My good lady Anne, she gave her wedding dress, as did my eldest daughter, to a charity that used them to create shrouds for babies who died in the womb.
That's beautiful, yeah.
What a beautiful gift.
That's gorgeous,
I nearly burst out crying when
I will just say that I always prefer to give to small local independent charities.
Yes.
Rather than the big charities with the overpaid CEOs.
Yeah, that's true. If you can find someone in need locally, give it to them directly.
Absolutely, yeah. Cut out the middleman.
Much better. So I've got number 7, offering your experience or knowledge to a charity board. So charities are often seeking talented and experienced people to volunteer their time onto their committee meetings, and you can offer your wisdom as an advisor or member and have a real impact on the growth of charities you wish to support. I thought maybe this was where you could mention about the Friday meeting at the beginning of each month, Jack.
I'll mention that at the end if that's
Okay,
with you.
that's fine. Yeah. So number 8 is mentoring a young person. New graduates and apprentices could use some mentoring and guidance. When you're asked for advice, give it. If you have the opportunity to mentor someone in your industry, do it. Help young people self-actualize and lead a happy life through generosity of your time. And I've got 9 and 10. Number 9, offer to carpool or drive friends and family. Generosity isn't just about giving your time and money. It's also about saving other people's time and money. If you share a common commute route with colleagues, offer to carpool with them. And number 10, there's always a need from foundations and hospitals for more blood, especially if you have a rare blood type. Find a local blood drive and give some blood. It can save someone's life. And then they've got a conclusion paragraph here. Acts of generosity can be found in cities and towns across the UK and America. You don't need to be wealthy to give generously. And in fact, you don't need to give money at all, but instead time, caring, or things you already own, but give away to some good for your fellow human. And so get out there and set an excellent example by getting involved in some acts of charity of your own. Trust us, the reward you will get will be much more valuable than anything you could possibly give away.
Well, thank you for all that, Andrew. That's absolutely brilliant.
It was good, wasn't it?
So what would happen if we all started to enjoy the inner transformation of generosity, if we all started to live generously? And what would happen to society if we could all feel confident in the generosity of others? Well, for a start, we'd all stop living in fear. Fear and meanness would become distant memories. I'm a great believer in the idea that meanness comes out of fear. It's only because we fear lack or we fear being misunderstood that we hold back from being generous. I don't think that's our natural way at all. It's because of this fear-based society we live in.
You're not going to get me disagreeing with you on that, Jack.
We can all give in our own unique ways. If you have money, then give that. If you have time, give that. You can give your compassion. You can just give a listening ear. Well, not just. It's a very important thing to give. We can all do that. Now, this is the thing that Andrew was asking me about just now, because he and I are in the process of setting up a new community. It's just online at the moment, and where we all help each other. All the members help each other on a don't pay me back, pay it forwards basis, where no money changes hands. Although we've said that in a mixed economy, it's okay to offer to pay expenses and more materials. But apart from that, no money changes hands. Nobody charges for their time. I've heard of a rickshaw driver in India who runs his service on that basis. You sit in his rickshaw and he says, there is no meter. I know you think that all rickshaw drivers are corrupt, but I believe in your goodness, and I believe in your goodness. Somebody who came before you has already paid for your ride, and you'll get an opportunity to pay for the people of the pay for the fares of the people who ride after you. Skeptics looked at him and said, do you really believe that? Do you really trust people? Do you really think people are good? Like they're going to live up to your trust? How long have you been doing this? Well, apparently he's been doing it for several years now. And he's been keeping records. Sure, some people take advantage, yeah. But some people also give a lot more than they need to. And so it averages out. There's also something I think everybody should know. This is worldwide, but there's one particular branch in Horwich in Greater Manchester. You may know it, Andrew.
I'm not too aware of Manchester. I have been, but usually to the centre and then come back home.
Okay, well, there's a restaurant there called Karma Kitchen.
Right.
And I'll say it's just one of many. I'll put the link to it below in the description. I definitely want to go there. Imagine a restaurant where there are no prices on the menu and where the bill reads 0 with only this footnote. Your meal was a gift from someone who came before you. To keep the chain of gifts alive, we invite you to pay it forward for those who dine here after you.
Wow.
Isn't that fantastic?
It's wonderful.
Karma Kitchen is completely run by volunteers. These are just 2 examples of people showing us what is possible. But what would happen if these small acts of generosity start to get connected? The whole world would change. So be the change you want to see in the world.
Yeah, the gift economy.
Free gift economy. Yeah. No money, no barter, just freely giving, freely receiving, paying it forward. I know this isn't communism, which I've sometimes been accused of, because I'm all for having private wealth. I just want to be generous with it. And this is I often call it an informal free gift economy because there's no government involvement. Right, retired people who give back report that they are more connected. Their life has more meaning and they have better health, statistically live longer than their counterparts who don't give back. And in the workplace, the results are just as promising. Everybody loves each other because they are all giving back together. And children. It turns out research has shown that the best indicator as to whether children will grow up to be generous is whether or not they had generous role models.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So now you know that generosity is contagious, and we know that that's how children learn. Why do you think that most kids, most families aren't teaching that to kids very early on? They might be teaching them to share their sweets. I know I was, but not much more than that. Well, wouldn't now be a great time to start?
Get them while they're young.
Get them while they're young. Not only do children, I'll just say quickly on that, Andrew, when I actually wrote my book, Love Not Fear, it was before all the shenanigans of the last few years. And I thought we had time. And in the book, I actually say that we have, I can't remember exactly how many years I said, but 35, something like that, I said, to get this off the ground. I was wrong. But my idea then is that the people who were brought into what I call the game we did not devise, this present paradigm that we had no say in creating, will find it very, very hard to adopt these new ways and methods. But their kids will have a better chance if they're brought up that way.
Mm-hmm.
And their kids will be in an absolutely perfect position to implement all of this. Now it looks like we might have to do it on a rather shorter scale, but such is life.
Yeah, might need to speed it up. Not 35, maybe 3.5. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm just thinking about a conversation I overheard between my mum and my dad. I was probably probably 16 or 17 years of age. And I had the attic bedroom. I stood at the top of the attic stairs. My mum and dad's bedroom door was just at the bottom of the attic stairs. And my mum was saying, Andrew's gone off on the wrong path. He's with the wrong people. He's doing the wrong things. He's going to get himself into a mess. And my dad was saying, you've got to stop fussing and fretting over him. I can't. He's my son. I care for him. And he's saying, you've got to trust that you've brought him up correctly, that Andrew knows the difference between right and wrong, and that he can make those judgments for himself. And I looked at my life from the top of that, the attic steps, and I realized that what my mum was saying was true. I was. There's one guy, he was someone I met at church, and he was probably 3 or 4 years younger than me. And he's a big guy. He's like 6'4" rugby player, always breaking limbs on the rugby field. And he said, are you going to the pub after church? I said, no, I don't go to the pub after church. He said, have you not heard of thirsting after righteousness? So he was telling me about going in the pub this particular day and saying, it's my birthday today. And the landlord saying to him, all right, Mick, yeah, how old are you today? He says, I'm 18. He says, you've been coming in here for 4 years.
Yeah.
So I was
used to as a kid too. Yeah, I used to.
I was in with the wrong crowd, and my mum was right, but it was the very fact that I overheard my dad saying what he said. You've got to trust the way that we've shown Andrew to live. That he'll be all right, that made me all right. I wanted to show my mum she was wrong, even though I knew she was right. I wanted to live up to what the expectation was from my dad. And he wasn't bullying me into being that way. He was calming down the feelings that my mum had, that things were going wrong for me. And it made me want to be the person that he said. And how many children have got that? Somebody who believes in them, who trusts in them to make the right decisions. And I think that's half the problem, just having the role model, which is what you were just saying, quoting your book, that this is a game that we didn't devise, and we've got to educate whoever the children are that we have some kind of influence with. I'm fortunate to be a grandparent, and I have some influence with my grandchildren, and I'd love to be able to, as they're growing up, to just keep nudging them a little bit in the right direction, like my dad did with me.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. It's not difficult to create a program of generosity within your company, within your religious organization, within your school, or within your community. Or come and join our online community. We're actually called, what are we called, Andrew? We're called Let's Help Each Other to Thrive. Thrive.org. I'll put the link below.
Yeah.
And at the moment, we're an online community. But we have hopes eventually to be able to get some land, get a community garden together, or maybe even a network of them. But at the moment, we're just an online community where we all help each other, mostly with digital skills. But whatever you've got, whatever you can do, we put people in touch with each other. Andrew has very kindly agreed to be the regional coordinator for North Derbyshire.
However that develops, it's like, that's the story of the lay preacher. It could have been my dad. I don't know. He used to tell the story about the lay preacher who went to preach out in the little chapel out in the middle of the sticks, and they had a instead of having a collection during the service, they just had a box in the entrance, and you just put money in there as you walked in. And this lay preacher put in £5, and when he came out after the meeting, they emptied the box and they gave him the contents for his travelling expenses. And the little boy was watching all this, and they gave him £5, which was in the box, and the little lad said, if you put more in, you'd have got more out.
Yeah.
So
Anyway,
the
the
more we
idea
put
is to
in,
get lots of different regions set up with regional coordinators, and then we can become less of an online community and more of an actual person-to-person, flesh-to-flesh community. People actually helping each other locally, which have meetings and all kinds of things over time. But we've only been going a couple of months. So people who are generous are statistically more creative, better at problem solving, have higher degrees of empathy, and they behave in a more ethical manner. This makes the community a better place to live for everybody. We can shift from money transactions to trust. We can build a gift culture based on love and generosity instead of fear and meanness. But it will take trust. Trust that it won't just be a one-way street. Trust that other people will give to you too. That they will pay your generosity forward. And that what goes around, comes around, will eventually come back to you. Trust that when you give to a person, that person will give to the next person. And over time, it will come back around. Not in exact proportion, because this way of living necessitates giving up bean counting. It's the bean counting, I believe, that makes us mean.
Scarcity, isn't it? It's the scarcity economy. Is it Charles Eisenstein talks about it, that there is a belief that there's only a limited amount of everything, and that this isn't true, according to him, that we've actually all got, it's called Sacred Economics is his book. And I think you can download it for free from the internet. Charles Eisenstein, and maybe we can find the link for that and put that beneath this video as well.
I'll put it below, yeah. Sacred
Economics. It's saying that within the kind of thing that we're talking about here tonight, that you can't outgive. I always say you can't outgive love. You know, if you, what they say, isn't it, in the Bible, put your bread out on the waters and it'll come back to you after many days. And some wise crack said it'll come back to you soggy. But if you cast your bread out on the waters, you'll be always able to have an unlimited supply of kindness coming your way, because that's just how it works. You can't outgive it. So
yeah. I mean, in a money society, money is all about keeping score. But we don't need to keep score in order to work out who is winning. Indeed, the winners in the new paradigm will be the biggest givers, not the biggest takers. When we all focused on how much can I give instead of how much can I get, everything will change and our society will be completely transformed. What I very much want to do is to find ways to get everyone involved, because I know that everyone has something unique to bring to the table. The more people who give back to the community, the stronger the community gets. If we can build a vortex of generosity, there's a concept for you, a vortex of generosity. As it grows, the world will continue to get better. So what I'd like to suggest is that the generosity epidemic, can't say it, starts here and starts now. It starts in our families, in our community, in our businesses.
It starts with us.
It starts with us now, and it starts with let's help each other to thrive.org.
Yeah.
So please do go onto the website and sign up. It's free, by the way. This involves trusting people's innate capacity to give and people's capacity to hold themselves in a circle, in community. That's exactly what Let's Help Each Other to Thrive is trying to do. We are such a community. Come and join us. Be part of our don't pay it back, pay it forward free gift economy. It's early days. We're just getting started. We had our second monthly Zoom meeting last week, and Andrew was there, weren't you, Andrew?
I was indeed.
So if you share our dream of a more generous world, please do join us and help us grow.
I think there's a problem in most minds that have been conditioned with the game that we didn't devise to get your head around it. I heard this concept probably 6-9 months ago, something like that, and it just didn't seem reasonable in my head. But does it need to sound reasonable to be a giver? No, just give.
Just give, just give, just give. Yeah. The more of us that do it, the more of us will do it. Okay, the cost. What I mean, you're the religious guy here, Andrew. What did?
Well, I was. Yeah.
Yeah, you were. Yeah. What did Saint Ignatius say?
Ignatius. Now that's going into church history.
To give and not to count the cost. To toil and not to ask for any.
Is that Ignatius? I got that down as Francis of Assisi, but maybe I've got it mixed up. Yeah. But yeah, to give and to not count the cost. That's
obviously he meant to give to the church, but what I'm suggesting is we give to each other.
No bean counting round here. No bean counting allowed. Just give.
We could make a song out of that, couldn't we?
Yeah. No beans. No beans.
Right, to the tune of what's that Scissor Sisters sing? What was that Scissor Sisters song? We could do it to that tune. It would work, wouldn't it?
It would, yeah. I've forgotten the name of it. I know the one that you mean.
Goes now.
I do remember the Scissor Sisters.
If anybody wants to write us a song for next week and perform it for us
live,
yeah, we'd love to have you on next week doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Don't forget we're here every Monday.
Yeah, 6:30 till 7:30, and sometimes it goes a little beyond that. It has been known to.
It has been known to. It's a shame Catherine's had to go because I wanted her to say something about this new thing she's doing in the Peak District. Do you know anything about it, Andrew?
I think that's Karen rather than Catherine.
I thought it was both of them.
Well, she's in Spain, is Catherine, so it's a bit difficult for her to join in.
Oh, okay.
It's I think Karen's in Leek in Staffordshire, and they've got like a hub. So they've got this meeting hall, and they've it's just any and all resources that can, like counselling, free food, shopping. You like a food bank, the warm heating thing. I don't know if you've heard of the government's warm heating scheme. So you lock up your own cold house and you go to a warm place, and it's a place where you can meet people and have a cup of tea together. And my brother's church is doing it. The Methodist Church in Cullingworth near Keighley, they're opening up their doors. I think it's 3 times a week, so that people in the community can lock up their homes and not have to heat their homes, just come and sit together, have a natter and have a cuppa. So all those kind of things that you could possibly imagine are happening in this hub, they're calling it, in Leek in Staffordshire. And I think she's also involved with one in Oswestry and another one in Bristol. So it's the same concept, that we're pooling our resources as a community. There's various people with various things that they can offer. Maybe some like clothing, not jumble, but good clothing that's not you wear it. Or I don't, but some ladies wear it once and they don't want to wear it again. Oh, I can't go out in that again. So it's perfect. It's a brand new garment, and then they gift it forward. So somebody goes down to this hub and they find some clothing. So it's just a beautiful idea. It's really very similar to what you've suggested, and I think it doesn't matter how many people, in fact, the more the merrier, that get on this bandwagon of being in a place of generosity and helping each other. And I think there'll be, we won't be on our own, Jack, with our project. It's going to spring up everywhere. And I believe, I'm somebody who believes that we are love. You know, love came down at Christmas, love all, lovely, love's divine. And there was a beautiful hymn that we used to sing about Jesus, love to the loveless shown that they might lovely be. We are in nature, I believe. Take away all the religion, all the dogma, all the doctrine. We are love. And the fear is something that was introduced. It really, it's not natural to us, isn't fear?
No, it's not natural. This is what I call the game we did not devise, based on fear. That we've been indoctrinated into. Yeah. It is not natural to us. Fear and meanness is not our natural way. No. Love and generosity is our natural way. I believe that.
Yeah, and the kindness.
We've been brought up from sitting on our parents' knee all the way through school into this paradigm of money and meanness, and I'll only give you this if you give me that, and I've got to make a profit out of every transaction, and all this nonsense that's kept us in fear and control.
Yeah. And when you realize that if you believe it, I think it is to do with what you believe. It does affect you. And if you've got a negative belief, it will pull you down. It will make your world awful. It's far better to have a positive thought. I remember saying as a 16, 17-year-old that either this life is a sick joke that ends up 6 foot under the earth, or there is something more to it than this. And even if I'm wrong, even if I have believed in vain, if I'm somebody who's a crackpot, you know, I am a cracked pot, that's where the light gets through. But even if I am mad, you know, believing what I believe, I'm living a much more happy existence. Even if I'm befuddled, I feel at peace, and I feel able to be generous and to be kind and to show love and light to other people, because I'm coming from this this way of thinking that says that you can't outgive love. Why would you be in fear when you can be a giver and you can show kindness, because it's coming back. He's going to come and get you. He's going to bite you in the backside. You're going to get what you've given out is going to come back to you. And so I think even if I'm wrong about the afterlife, and I don't think I am, but even if I am wrong about that, I am living a far better existence with that belief than I would do without it.
What's your take on this, Kenneth?
I'm not quite sure if from a evolutionary biological standpoint, humans had to overcome at some point more of a field-based reality, because we tend to be tribal. And I think in a modern society, sometimes it does play itself out. There are extenuating factors that like contribute to, say, like racial disparities, and the belief that's been fostered by in some cases, the modern scientific community, where certain aspects of racial theory have been promoted to promote some groups over others, but I still think that is based in a biological fear of tribes that are different. Are we able to overcome it? Yes, I think we are. And I think this is where you're going in terms of you and Andrew's work in wanting to try to create a better world, to try to just break some of these fear-based realities that are maybe biologically based, but I don't think in terms of the human spirit, in terms of our spiritual makeup, are true. I think we are spiritually designed to operate in a love-based reality, but the world has, the physical world, physical reality, have made human beings more selfish and tribal in nature.
Yeah, I think you're right.
What I would say on that one, I mean, basic fear that we had when we were living in very primitive societies, fear of saber-toothed tigers, fear of falling off cliffs, fear of fire before we actually tamed it.
Right.
We're good fears. But what we have now, what we've been programmed into, is these hyped up fears that are unjustified. Yes, I think that's what we're trying to say.
Divide and conquer. It's a mind trick, and the mind. It's like the computer processor. It's there to help us, to aid us, but that isn't who we are. We're not the thinking being. We're in the gut. We're in the spirit. This is the basis of who we are. But unfortunately, those who seek power and influence and wealth, they set up one community against the other, whether anything that they can find that makes you different from somebody else, then that's to make you fear those other other human beings, and you can't trust them, and that's a lie. It's an absolute lie. Everybody, if you have an opportunity to get up close and personal, and as a life coach, that's happened to me many times, where you get to the essence of the human being that you're talking with, and they're just, everyone's the same. They just want to be loved. They just want to be shown some kindness, and yet, are they willing to give it themselves? Oh, well, yes, but if I did that, they might do this to me. So you're in fear, basically. So the thing is, as Jack's book, which I still haven't read, Love Not Fear, is the title's telling you, even if you're not getting the full detail here, Love Not Fear, if you base your own existence on love, then I see the two as opposites. I see fear is the antithesis of love. And if you focus in on being a loving person, doing acts of love and kindness, then you're living a loving world. I think it's Wayne Dyer that said that, or was it Ken Keyes Jr., who said, a loving person lives in a loving world.
Yeah. I think that's a wonderful place. Sorry?
Oh, I'd like to say, do you think that there is an element of mind control by I don't know, for lack of better terminology, a cabal or a group that wishes to see people divided?
I certainly do. Yeah, I see it everywhere. Yeah, the whole paradigm. I mean,
now how do we break this programming and move into a new paradigm in terms of getting the masses to understand that a fear-based reality is not only devastating to the world in terms of depletion of its resources, but also just in terms of people not evolving to their full spiritual potential.
That's very true. Yeah. Well, how do we do it? In my book, I set out a 10-point plan. But I'm not going to go into all that tonight. Maybe I'll do a show on it.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Mm.
Promote your book. Use the show to promote your book. Get a few copies sold, because the more people who read it, the better the world's going to be.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, that's why I wrote it. I didn't write it to make money. I wrote it to try and change the world. In fact, you don't have to pay any money to read it.
Oh, you can download it for free.
Get a
Yeah.
free download off my website, lovenotfear.uk. You can get a free download. I just want people to read it. Yeah.
It's something that Catherine said a while ago to me. She said, there's this big jar, and in the jar, there's red ants and there's black ants. And they're all getting on with their lives. They're doing fine. There's no problems. And then somebody shakes the jar. What did you do that for? The red ants say to the black ants, and the black ants said, no, it was you. Why did you do it? And instead of blaming each other, what they should be doing is asking who's shaking the jar. And that's the same, an analogy for, oh, it's the Ukrainians, it's the Russians, it's the Conservatives, it's the Labour, it's the well-to-do, and it's those who have nothing. They set us up against each other, and while we're arguing about that, they're just running off into the sunset with the beautiful lady in the motorboat and all that, you know. It's distraction. All it is distraction. It's a lie, and we don't need to listen to it. Once we become aware, awake, enlightened, when we realize it, we come to our senses like the prodigal son. You know, we don't have to worry about it anymore. And I think that is the journey of this life, the journey of the prodigal son. He had everything. He grabbed what he could. He was a grabber. He was a grasper. He ran away with it all, and he fell on hard times. And then he realized that even the servants in his father's house had it better than what he got. He was aching to eat the pods that he was going to give to the pigs. He wanted to eat that pig food because he was hungry. And he said, I will arise and go to my father. When we arise, when we go, hey, wait a minute, you're not having me with that nonsense anymore. That's when the enlightenment comes and the awareness comes. And we say, you're not having me with that game anymore. I'm not playing it anymore. We're all equal. We're all potentially able to do kindness and love for each other. So let's do that. I'll set the example. I'll go first.
If we can just become aware, consciously aware of all the divide and conquer, divide and rule programs that are running in our society today, through politics, through the Abrahamic religions, through economics, in education.
Yeah, there's another one.
You know, if we can just be aware of them and stop playing those games.
I think it's possible to remain part of the system without allowing the system to be inside you. You say, no, you don't get me with that. I used to sit there at lunchtime in the office. I worked in the same office for the best part of 12 years. And I used to sit there and read the Daily Mail. And I kept going, you're not getting me with that. I don't believe that. The editorial comment. And I know what your game is. You're trying to play divide and conquer. I'm not joining in. So you can still be in it, but not of it. You know, that's what St. Paul, isn't it? We're in the world, but we're not of it.
I mean, that's another divide and conquer game, isn't it? You know, it's the male readers against the Guardian readers. You know, I mean, why do we keep buying into all this nonsense?
It's laughable. It is. But a lot of people are hooked.
Well, especially when you have only 6 corporate entities that control all the print, you know, and other media in the world. So, you know, if you've got 6 sources and they're all aligned, basically feeding you the same nonsense, you know, you're going to, unless you can think outside the box and you buy into the program, you're going to be stuck.
Yeah.
And that's what they want. You know, they want to keep,
What they
they
want.
kind of
Yeah.
want to keep running the same program over and over again.
And every time we start to break free, they come up with something else to distract us,
Absolutely, absolutely.
to
They
drag us
just did
back
it in
in.
20, they just did it in 2020.
Every time, the first thing you got to do to break free of all this, of course, is to burn your television. But as soon as we start to break free, they find some other lie to drag us back. It's somebody else to hate, some other
Right.
group to hate, to drag us back into the old paradigm. We just got to reject the whole thing, you know. I mean, I love everybody. I don't care what religion you are, what kind of skin you've got, where you're from in the world, what
Right.
language you speak. Yeah, whether you believe this, I won't say it because I'll get banned on YouTube, but this jibby jabby we all had to take, whether we think it's a good thing or a bad thing. That's just something else to divide people. I just say whatever you believe, whatever you think, I'm in unity with you. I might not agree with you.
No, you don't have to agree with everything that we say. There's 8 billion people on the planet, and they all have the right to be an individual, to see the world from their own perspective. And if you see the world from the same perspective as me, you're probably in my tribe. But if you don't, that doesn't negate you as a human being.
No.
You are just as valid as everybody else.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I think it's more. I think it's more interesting. I think it's more important to look at the commonalities between each other than our differences.
Yeah.
And we're going to have to do it now, aren't we, Jack? I know she's not here, but we're going to have to sing it. All you need is love. Da, 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 da.
Yeah, there certainly are more. There are more things to, more similarities to unite us than differences to divide us. But it depends on where we put our focus. If we focus on the differences, we'll have division. If we focus on the similarities, we'll have unity.
Yeah.
You were saying earlier about God or source or whatever you want to call it being love. And if we are all fractals of source, which is what I believe in a fractal universe, then we are love. That's all we are.
Yeah. But then again, you've got this duality, and the way I imagine it is you're all sat up there in heaven on the clouds, strumming your harps, blissed out of your brains, and just getting boring. So very, very boring.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So I tell you what, let's have a game. Let's have a game of duality. What's one of them? Well, you've got an up and a down, a right and a left, an inside and outside. And it's the oneness just dissipates for a time, for 70, 80 years. And then you're back here again. You know, you're back to this oneness and this beautiful, okay, let's go and play a game. And that's how I see it. We've just come here for a laugh, for a joke. Ha, 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 ha. That's
my cosmology exactly. And I even extend that to God or source.
Yeah.
And so being everything and having nothing to get, nothing to need, being completely self-sufficient and perfect gets boring after a while. So what can I do to spice things up and to have some playmates?
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, why don't I won't use the word create. I shall use the word differentiate.
Yes.
Into a universe full of people and animals and different things going on. Because then I have some fun in life instead of just being stuck here, not even all alone in the universe, but all alone before the universe. It must be dead boring.
I read something, one of those Facebook posts recently, last week or so, and it said that everything is light. And the only difference is that it's been slowed down into sound. It's been slowed down into bones and flesh and blood and all the other little bits that make up our world. But it's all light. And so when this part of me is gone. I'm just going back to the light, you know. Go to the light, they said, don't they, in the movies? Go to the light, go to the light. I am the light, you know. I've just been slowed down a bit, but don't matter, I'm speeding up again now after my PE.
No, we are the light, we just need to remember.
Yeah, it's remembering what you forgot.
But we can't, as you say, but we come here for 60 or 70 years to forget, so we can have a bit of fun.
Yeah, we've chosen to forget it, but then these little awarenesses, these little awakenings keep hitting you, and you go, oh yeah, I remember that. So and when you say something, there's a lovely way of the Bible talks about it. It seemed right to us and to the Holy Spirit. When there's that knowing, when, oh yeah, of course, I remember. That's how it's supposed to be. When that happens, when that hits you, then there's no sort of, oh, I'm not sure whether that's right. You know, I'll have to go away and research it and have a think it through. You immediately, there's a knowing.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah. I was arguing for a certain thing, and you said that. No, you're right. I'm wrong. That's correct. You just know. There's a knowing.
Yeah.
So we're looking for the knowing.
Well, I think that's a beautiful place to leave it.
Good.
Just a quick reminder that we're here every Monday.
Next time it'll be a much more sweeter and more pretty and beautiful person co-hosting with Jack. I did my best. I brushed my hair and everything, but that was about as far as it went.
Annie's good for the show, isn't it? I love having
marvelous.
I love having Annie on the show. She's really, really good for it. She's so full of fun and joy.
She is. She's a very beautiful human being.
She brings a whole different dimension to this show.
Sorry about that, folks. I tried my best.
No, you did brilliant, Andrew. You did absolutely great. I really appreciate you stepping up to the plate the way you did.
Well, I appreciate being asked. It was lovely to think that I might be, even for a short time, a stand-in for the amazing Annie.
If you want to mention to Catherine about our group, that would be lovely. And also, if she wants to come on my Friday show and talk about the singing leak, she'd be very welcome.
Yeah, Karen. Yeah,
Karen. Yeah, so I can
that'd be great. Yeah.
That'd be good. So, right. Thank you all for coming.
Namaste.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you.
Love and light to you. To you, Kenneth. To you, Jack.
Namaste.
Bye for now. See you next week. Bye.
Okay. Bye now.